Hello everybody at Gamescom. Right now I'm going to talk to you about one very special game for us called CRIS TALES. Let's watch it first.
If you saw what was, what is, and what would be. If you knew how it ends. Would you change it? Could you make the hard decisions? And would you be strong enough to fight? If you learn from the past and act in the present, you can rewrite the future.
And after showing you that trailer that was very important for us because it was the launch of the game, I want to show you this other trailer that actually shows the moment where that was revealed to the world. This is at the PC Gaming Show in Los Angeles, where we actually were there. This was a video that I took myself in the reveal of CRIS TALES to the world. It was extremely exciting. People were cheering. People were loving the art style. Were loving what a crazy idea what they had in front of their eyes. So people were taking pictures. We were really happy, not only by the fact that people there were liking it, but on Twitter we were globally trending for a few minutes, but it was global trending, the name CRIS TALES. We were extremely happy about that. We had never gotten such a reception with any of our games previously, and I think this moment defined a lot of what we were going to do with this game and with our future. So I hope you actually see it. I hope you actually enjoy it, and this moment was a life-changing event for us.
Well, that was CRIS TALES. That was the trailer for the launch, and we're really excited to be bringing this game from our dreams into our reality. I'm Carlos Rocha. I'm the CEO and founder of Dreams Incorporated, and one of the co-founders of Seed Games. So let me talk to you a little bit about how in CRIS TALES we were designing between the innovation and the nostalgia that brought us here into this video game world. And everything we do in CRIS TALES, it's about this theme, this philosophy behind everything we do in the game. Well, the art, design, the mechanics. So how do we think about the game? We learn from the past, we act in the present, and we create our future. How do we do that? You'll ask. Then I'm going to show you this same presentation with that same structure and that same philosophy. Let's start with the past. Let's learn from it. And what have we been doing so far? We've been working with clients from all over the world. We know that talent is not enough. There's a lot of people around the world that have tons of talent, and we just can't count on that to just be the best ones there are. Being the best, you can be the best at one specific thing, but not at everything. So we were trying to find out what was it that made us, special. Everyone is special in their own way, so we wanted to find out what was that thing that made us special. So we're a small indie studio. We're in Colombia, in Bucaramanga. Actually, it's not a very well-known city. And we were realizing that with each game that we were making, we were growing. In what direction? That was the important question. And that's where we found our voice. We have been working with Cartoon Network, with 1C Company, which were publishers in another game that we worked on, with Elaine Media, with Discovery Kids, with big brands that helped us, shape our way into what we were to become. So at one particular moment, we realized that we were pretty good at creating unique experiences. So in one experimental gameplay project, particularly, we decided to create something absolutely bonkers, absolutely unique, that In just a very, very small and simple demo, we created something that was that got players around the world very, very excited about this. And around more than 300,000 people were playing it in the Congregate website. Back in the day, that was several years ago, when we uploaded this really small game called Words Warriors. And it got reviews from everywhere saying that the game was incredible. And the only criticism that we really got was that it was just too short. It was basically 15 minutes. From then, we knew we had something special. So it was very simple graphics, very small. So now we're thinking about, okay, let's take it to the next level. Let's go mobile. That was all the rage in the moment. So we're thinking, how do we make this into an experience that a lot of people would enjoy, something that would be very approachable. So, at the beginning, you start thinking about going into what the market is looking for at the moment. So mobile was, the big rage. We're thinking, okay, let's try something mobile. We thought that it was less risky. We thought that it was less expensive. It definitely isn't. So we created this mobile version for iOS particularly. That it has been featured by Apple on more than 30 countries. It got a lot of praise. We have to say that we were finalists at the Indicate. We had more than 43 levels. It was 5 different stages, all inspired by different fairy tales. By the fairy tales followed by the fairy tales that we all grew up with. Actually, a lot of them inspired by tales from Germany. So we had a very unique and entertaining story, but it was a very, very short experience, more around an hour and a half. But it was something nice for parents to play with their kids. So then we realized, okay, we're not very into mobile. That's not really what we want to do. So we went ahead and started with our project for consoles. So on consoles, we really wanted to create an experience that we would play ourselves. So the same mechanic that we used for that, we expanded on it, and we started working on a longer story, a lot of different characters, a lot of different backgrounds. So we created our own lore, and this lore was developed in Heinrich. So Heinrich it's a really, really interesting game. So we published it around the world for PS4, for Xbox One. So for really, really good platforms that we prefer to play a lot on consoles and PC. So we felt more secure about what we were doing. It was for mature audiences, but we were still experimenting with something because the mechanic was so unique that it wasn't really easy to classify on a particular genre. A lot of people could say it's like puzzle means adventure, with a hint of here and that. So it was very difficult to get references to create something, inspired by something else. We got mostly references from indie games all over the world, but it wasn't very easy to say, okay, this is a mix of this and this. It was more than 5 hours of content, and it had a longer story. And we got also nominations for the South by Southwest awards. We were a nominee and a winner of the big awards for most innovative game. We were really happy with the results, and the art style was something that we realized that we were pretty good at. It was a very, very unique art style, and people loved it. So then we said, okay, we have learned more lessons. So, what have we learned so far? That we're pretty good at creating unique mechanics. So for instance, with Heinrich, you can actually see right now how you walk on top of the words. So you make the words come to life, or the words come to life on their own. It's something very unique, very particular. It's kind of like, other types of games, referencing, let's say, Scribble Notes in reverse. It's the best description that we once got. But it's still very unique. So it was something very particular that we had a lot of trouble, in development and marketing to communicate to people. So with this in mind, we learned about who we were, our identity. So we know what our strengths are. We know that we're pretty good at designing, at creating unique mechanics. We know we're pretty good at innovating through art. We create something very unique with each game that we make. And we're pretty good creating, mixing all of that through innovative gameplay. So we're pretty good at that. That's important for you to realize. But other lessons that we learn, in the industry, it's not all about yourself. It's not all about the intern hardships that you have creating a game. It's also about how you communicate that. And we learned that marketing unique games, it's definitely not an easy task. A lot of you remember that campaign of Now You're Thinking with Portals. So you actually need a really, really big campaign to communicate something as interesting as that and make people realize that it's something that they want to play. So it's very difficult to actually, get people excited about a new mechanic and a new type of game. And you actually, to refine it, you need to iterate on that a lot. And that takes time and that takes money. So you don't have infinite budget, you have limited time. So in general, you have limited resources. The same thing with art, to make the most of the art that you create. So one thing that we learn is just to don't overdo it. There's the saying when you create games that game is never done, it's just launched. So with all of this in mind, actually a small team that a few friends just gathered around side of the usual company that I was working with. We just got around and wanted to create just very, very particular games as well. We understood all of these elements and we said, okay, let's just create something new. Let's just create our future. Let's just create it, by acting. And that's how we need to act in the present by learning from all of those moments that we had. And by that hunger that we had to get there, we started experimenting. This is like the part that is the most fun for everyone, because you get to imagine, you get to experiment, you get to screw up, because you will make a ton of mistakes to get where you want to, and you need to start with a seed. So that seed could be anything. It's just one simple mechanic, that it's a naked mechanic. You don't know where it belongs, you don't know where it could go to. It's just like going through a mine and finding just little bits of gold here and there. But you don't know where you will actually find the biggest pieces. You don't know what you will find if you keep digging. So if you actually think that you have something very, very interesting, that's what you need to look for more. So here, we thought we had encountered something very, very interesting. So we actually had a prototype that was super simple, that had a very simple girl, in as you can see, it was black and white. We actually recycled some elements from other games, because we had this crazy idea of what would happen if in the same screen you could see the past, the present, and the future at the same time, at all times. That was a very, very weird mechanic, and we also wanted to create a very unique art style for it. So, we had no limitation at this point. It was just, forming the seed. And then we just let the creativity flow and see how it felt. Then we created this that you're seeing right now. And you can see how everything changes in the past, the present, and the future. You can see how the characters themselves age in front of you. You can see how new people are born, or people grow. And this is all part, and you can even see even that little lock that's there, it's busted in the present, it's absolutely rusted in the future. But in the past, it was fine. So, imagine the puzzle possibilities. So yeah, we do have some puzzle DNA here and there. But we didn't want to create exactly a puzzle, because, we had been through that road. We wanted something a little different. So now in the present, we wanted to think about what limitations we had, what genres we could put this game in. So we had the seed. Okay, it was fun, it was interesting. We were able to imagine something that people actually liked. So when people watched it, they were really, really impressed. But we just had, simple puzzles that people could solve with that mechanic. So now we wanted to create something that solved a lot of the previous issues that we had, with the previous games, and something that would really impact the people and would really take advantage of what we were creating with this same mechanic. So, in this moment, it was when we thought, okay, what is a genre that we actually love, that we actually enjoy, and that people understand and love as well? That's when we thought, okay, how about an RPG? How about if you could actually walk through the towns and you could see that town in the past, the present, and the future, but you could also go into fights, in a turn-based battle system, where you could actually send your enemies into the past or into the future. So we thought about that, and that was definitely something very, 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 very interesting for us. So the RPG was the genre that we said, okay, this is where we want this game to be. That way, we could not only create something unique that we loved with this mechanic, but it also allowed us to cater to the nostalgic people that we are also part of that crowd, and at the same time talk to the new crowd that wants something innovative, that wants something unique. So we were inspired by games of old, but at the same time we were also inspired by the new indie games that are trying to innovate constantly, because that's also who we are. So we improved on the structure of what we were creating this. In an RPG, you use the same animations several times, so that was also smart from a production perspective. But we were also creating, something that was very effective from a marketing standpoint. So we could actually tell people that we were inspired by the old RPGs, and they will understand what we were doing, what we're aiming for, and then they would see what we were creating. They would actually get surprised because it's absolutely unique. So this is one of those time puzzles that I was talking about. Remember that little lock? You can actually see first that it's, in the present it's busted, so it's broken. So you can't open it. Even if you have the key, you can't open it. In the future, it's even more destroyed because of time, and it gets destroyed and everything. And in the past, it was completely fine. So what happens if you actually take this little frog companion that you have and you send them into the past, and he opens that lock in the past? That lock will be open, hence the doors will open up for you in the past. So in the present, they would remain open. So with this in mind, we thought, okay, let's make this about decisions. It's not only about the puzzles, it's about what you decide to do. So you can actually see how the world transforms around you with multiple outcomes. So you can help people, leave them be, or actually make a bad decision. That's what we wanted you to do in this new world. So, in RPGs, you actually find people that, ask you for fetch quests, but you can actually make some decisions there, You can actually say to someone, hey, I'm going to give you money, or I'm going to just leave you hanging, or I'm going to do something in between. So that's what we wanted to explore also with this mechanic in this RPG world, right? So, you can actually see the backgrounds or the world around you, how it changes. And this also led to creating a lot more interesting elements, not only with those environments, but with the characters. So you can see how people change from, how they were several years ago, how they look right now, and where they're going to be several years from now. So that to us felt amazing. So it's about not only telling stories within, creating a character. It's not only creating, one little story, but it's thinking about every story that we can tell with each character, and what each character with 3 versions can tell you. It's like a very small comic trapped in this whole town. So every NPC for us, it's valuable because it says something. the same thing happens with the enemies. So you can see how some of them might look like just an evolution, but that's not the point. The point is that every enemy in their own versions will actually have different skills, like, an evolution of those skills, a change more than an evolution, something different with each one. But they will have different weaknesses and different strategies as to how to attack these enemies. So for instance, one of the enemies in the future, they are like the commanders and can actually tell the younger ones, motivate them. So they have buffs that can make them stronger, like having a leader in the crew. But the one that is younger can actually be the fastest one. So, he can attack you faster, but the one in the middle will actually use elements from both. From both the future and the past. So this is also interesting to us from a design perspective when we're designing the fights and the enemies. But again, all of those stories could also be told through the decision that you make with the NPCs on every town. Something very interesting is that every town is actually based on different places in Colombia. I will talk about this a little bit later, but that is something we really wanted to do. So let's tell these stories with these little comics. So we created systems that allowed us to make decisions by talking to these people that would change the future of set characters. And with the enemies, it's not only about the different versions that they have, but also about how you can send them both to the past and to the future. So, you can start a fight and it's all in the present, but you can use the crystals of time, which is how we call the different filters, let's say, the division of the past and the future. It's by using these crystals, and you can send an enemy into the past to see his past version, or send them into the future to go into the next version of how he would look a few years from now. Of course, that presents its own set of challenges, like what happens if it's his older self and you send him into the future. It's a lot of questions that we have to answer from a design perspective. What happens if an enemy, but it also brings interesting questions like what happens if an enemy not only has one future version, but actually has different versions of the future for himself. So that led us to incredible designs that you can actually see. If you can send an enemy into the future, he can transform into a very simple and easy to defeat enemy, or maybe someone really, really strong, or the same thing happens with the past. And knowing that that same enemy could actually be, a very weak enemy in the past or a very strong enemy in the future, that lets you to think about how this would actually work, from a gameplay experience for the players. There are also very interesting systems that we can create because of this time change mechanic within the fights. Something that we always loved about RPGs was, the status elements are a very well-known brand for the usual enemies, for the usual systems in design in RPGs. We wanted to create our own systems. So, in Super Mario RPG, for instance, you had a status element that turned you into a mushroom. And when you were, a mushroom, you could do nothing, but you regain some health. That is wonderful because that blends perfectly with the design of the game, with the lore of the game. That same thing happens with another great inspiration for us that's more modern, like Bravely Default. But we wanted to create our own type of status elements, right? So these Delta status elements, it's something that we thought, okay, this will be very, very interesting. Imagine this. You have an enemy that has a metal armor. So this metal armor, you can see it in the present. Okay, so we have a spell that actually gets your enemies wet. So you can wet an enemy that has armor, that's not metal, and you send that enemy into the future. What do you think happens if a metal armor that is wet gets sent several years into the future? There you go, it gets rusted. So with this rust status element that can only be achieved by sending a wet armor into the future, you can actually weaken their defense. So this huge armor that you see before you doesn't protect the enemies anymore. You don't worry about this. This you can find the demo, so it's one of the first time puzzles that you will find, but you find other different types of possibilities that we have in the game. So, aside of this, actually, there are a lot of time tricks, as we call them. So, for instance, there's this other character called Wilhelm. So, Wilhelm actually has these Yucandragoras. So, the Yucandragoras are little plants that he can plant, and they take some time to grow. Normally, that would mean a few turns. But if you send that part of the screen into the future, including the planted yucca, that yucca will grow and will activate and making the enemies, for instance, exploding or making them all poison. Any effect that that plant would have, it would be accelerated by this sending into the future, by this delta moment. We're really happy because in the present we're getting a lot of help from incredible people like James Bernal, who helped us, configure the beginnings of the game, that seed that we fought so much for. Gerson da Silva from Ironhide in Uruguay, Alex Mandrica, former Ubisoft designer, Ian Hunt, also a designer in the US. So these people were helping us shaping that original idea. Right now, we are working with a ton of really talented people on the writing side, with Mark Nelson, who's one of the writers from Fallout 3, Andrew Austin, who has worked on games like Kingdoms of Amalur and a lot of interesting games from the writing perspective. David Bergantino, who has worked a lot for a lot of different companies like Disney, THQ, on the writing side as well. They are all incredible writers. We're also working with Patrick Holman, who's an expert on JRPGs, and he has been helping us also with the writing and some of the mechanical elements. Jason Slar on the UX side, Norihiko Hibino with some guest tracks, with some guest music tracks, but the main tracks are being done by Tyson Worley, which is an incredible music composer who actually gets a lot of the CRPG vibe, and Kira Buckland, who makes the voice acting, but she's just one of the many wonderful voice actors that work in the game. So there's a lot of people helping us right now, aside of the team itself. So in the future, with all of this that we have learned in the past and everything we're doing in the present, this is what we want to achieve. We want to create a game with an incredible and committed team. This is everyone that you can actually find the team right now, including the SIG guys, including everyone from the programming side, the art team, the testing, the QA, producers, the accounting, everyone that is helping us shape this incredible game, because that we've combined our forces and our talents to work together to create this game that has been so well regarded and so well received by everyone around the world. It isn't even out, and we've won a lot of awards for the demos, for things that we have sent to the press to evaluate. Because people are able to play the demo and some of it, some additional elements aside of that for particular people. So we're really happy that people are receiving this. We're very honored by the amount of awards and attention that we've gotten. And we're not only super honored to be nominated and winning these awards, but also receiving so much attention. Our game has been mentioned next to juggernauts such as Final Fantasy VII Remake, Cyberpunk, other incredible games, in magazines such as Variety or in a lot of press that we're really excited for, Famitsu, IGN, a lot of incredible places. So that makes us really proud. But not only because we are appearing in the media, but also because through this all of these magazines, we have been highlighted as a great indie. Actually, for some magazines that we've seen, some analysis tells us that we were the most mentioned game in the month of June among the indie games. So whether that's true or not, we can leave that for the analysts. But we were extremely excited to be highlighted as the indie game of the month. So we were really super honored. Oh, and an article on Game Informer, which is a favorite of mine since I was a child, so that was also super nice. And in this future, we imagine and we see this incredible community that we're already shaping up, that people are already sending us all of their art, all of their creations inspired by the lore and by the universe that we're creating. So we're super honored, and we know that's a great responsibility to have. And finally, we not only want to create a future with all of these elements from the game, but also to give to our community, to where we come from. We know that coming from Colombia, there's like these ideas in the media that get bombarded a lot, and we decided we wanted to give a different message about who we were. So we created this concept called the endemic fantasy. So with this, we have the meta themes, like a lot of elements from the game, are born out of our everyday lives, and we turn them into fantastical elements. So the cathedrals, which are magical places in the world of CRIS Tales, are actually based on real cathedrals. In Colombia, the way people dress is also inspired by real dresses, real clothes from people in Colombia. So we're really excited to be showing you this. And we're really excited for you to actually look at this and imagine, no, this is just an RPG, a regular RPG, but no, it's actually inspired by real clothes from people here in Colombia. All of these places, all of these colors are inspired by real places, by how we actually look, how our country looks, which is, some would say, is absolutely magical. We believe so as well, and that's why we want to show you all of this through our game. And it's a little bit of a play of what magical realism did as a great movement. Gabriel Garcia Marquez, which is the Nobel Award-winning writer from Colombia, was an incredible representative of the magical realism, which is basically based on using fantastical elements and making them seem like everyday life happenings. We took the opposite approach and taking these everyday life happenings and turning them into actual fantastical elements. So for instance, if you're asleep in your game, as a status ailment, what is the cure for that? What is the item that heals you? Of course it's coffee, because it's part of who we are. So we have a lot of those really small elements that you can see here and there. I don't know if you noticed, but you have a yellow frog, like sort of like an orange frog with you. So this frog is inspired by a real frog in Colombia. That's the second most poisonous frog in the world. So you will see a lot of these small details throughout the game. And we're also trying to inspire a lot of people here in Colombia and here in the city of Bucaramanga to create games, to be part of a community of developers, to be part of an industry. We really want this to be a hub for talent, a hub for development, and we really want to highlight the innovation, because that's what brought us where we are right now, and teach that to younger generations, to new people that are aspiring to be game developers. So we're trying to help entrepreneurs, and we're trying to inspire the people that come after us. So we're really happy to be doing all of this, and we're really happy that you actually took the time to listen to this presentation. And I think it's time for some questions. So thank you very much for listening to this. It was great to be able to tell you a little bit more about CRIS Tales and about what we're making. So I hope you do have some questions about what we're doing, and we'll have some live time to do so. Thank you very much for the invitation, and talk to you soon. Oh, download the demo on both Steam and consoles. It's both for PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. It looks beautiful on all fronts. Thank you very much, guys.